Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is the December regularly scheduled meeting of the Electoral Board. It's 9:30. All three members are here. And I'd like to welcome also our registrar and Andrea Ruge,
And elections manager.
and the election and finishing
Oh,
and the election manager. Call for a motion to approve the final agenda as it stands.
so moved. Second.
Any objections? All in favor? Yes. We have asked the registrar to give a brief announcement. I know she is terribly busy. It's the budget season and she is up to her eyeballs in creating a budget. So whatever time you can allow us, we appreciate it.
Okay, I actually want to start with the budget part.
Okay.
I see down here about the accounting. I really,
You can pull it up to the top. Whatever you need to say, please do, and then
Okay,
you can
gotcha.
go back to your busy schedule.
okay, I can't give an accounting just now. I really don't want to until the budget has been approved. So the numbers are still moving around. I do want to say a little bit about
Hang on.
that.
The accounting though is to look at how we are doing this year against our current budget.
I didn't understand if that's what that was.
Yeah, no, it's where are we? You know, what have we spent? What have we spent since the last time we did this, which obviously there wasn't one. But looking at, you know, how are we tracking against our current budget?
Okay, so I can have that next time. I did not know that that's what that meant. Okay, gotcha. So then now.
And I will tell you that this board has never had accounting from registrar before.
Okay, gotcha.
So I'm sure they will be very interested in hearing.
So about this, oh, go. So did you have something?
No, I was
Oh,
maybe.
okay. So a couple of things I do want to say about the ongoing process now is our department, we're working under the assumption that there will be a special election in April. And so we've geared pretty much everything for that. So how that affects the budget is or spoke with the budget manager that I'm working with. And so we've added a line item because I asked how should that be counted in? And it's going to be a separate line item for just the special election loan. And so it can be pulled out or added back in as necessary. So so from there, I want to talk about yesterday we had a meeting face-to-face with the space management experts and the county. And
They're from facilities management.
yes, absolutely. And the reason for that is our space is extremely tight. And when I fill the full-time positions that I have open, we don't have enough workspaces for people to sit. We actually don't have enough workspaces for people to sit now. Every day, there's at least 2 employees that come in and they have to ask, where can I sit today? Who's not going to be here? And so they were very responsive to our request, to my request to have them come meet with us, come meet with me. And so we walk through and we're talking now about how to reconfigure our space in some pretty creative ways. So not only does everybody have a workspace, but also that we're going to change a little bit of security measures with our ballots, move things around a little bit so that we believe things are a bit more that the ballots are isolated from the ballots and things related to the ballots are completely isolated from other things. So we feel pretty good about that. We even went to the warehouse and looked in there. They were impressed about everything that was going on in there. It looks really good.
Thank you.
So I've seen it before when it didn't look this way. So that's in progress. How soon will some of those things happen? Maybe as soon as next week. We all know the holidays are coming. It's not going to be a complete overhaul next week, but with us in election mode, we are tearing off the piece that's most important that we really need done for the election and planning to get that done before the election before we hit the hottest part of it.
Mr. Strother seemed to be very receptive to your priorities. And you outlined to him what you needed done as soon as possible and what could wait a little while.
Yeah, it's very good. Really appreciate it.
Is the outcome going to be expanded space or just reconfigured space?
reconfigured space, because the election calendar is really tight. I don't want to do any kind of construction or tearing down or building up until we actually really know what's happening with the special election. And then there are other things that are happening besides, election preparation that are happening just besides the space. So we have a lot of record keeping to change around and update. We have a lot of moving around of records so that things are in the same place and more accessible to everyone. So all of that's going to happen at the same time. And so we don't want to do any construction work. We're just going to reconfigure the space that we have.
Okay.
Okay. So the last thing, actually, one other thing I want to mention is two more things for you. The whole of the election official software contract that we have has expired. So I think that software was too expensive for what we were paying for. And actually the way we were using it, I think it was too expensive. It was too big. We need. So I'm looking at bids from three companies, including that one. We have one called Poll Worker Hub that we're going to look at. The second one is called Soch, S-O-C-H. It's actually Integra Soch. And then the third one is 10X. That's the outgoing company. So I've been able to get hold of two of the three, and I've asked them if they can do demos for us starting the second week of January. The answer is yes. We'd like to do them all within the same week and make a very quick decision for what we'd like to do. We might end up staying with the current company, which is 10X, but we're not sure. So because it's probably going to be over a certain amount of money, we need to have three bids. And so we're going to look at these three companies. Okay, so that's in January. I was noticing registrations. Last topic for me. When the registration period ended for the last election, we created a file in a couple different places, actually two files, and it was called, we just labeled it after election. So we've I've taken a look at those files now. And within those files, of course, are quite a number of registrations. So I said, well, let me just take a look at what the Department of Elections website has for registrations, and then add that to the number that we have that are handwritten and just see how many new registrations, just get a ballpark of that. So between September, October, November, the online registrations increased by 1,066. This is according to the numbers on the Elect's website. And then the handwritten hard copy registrations that we received since registration period ended is 486. So that's a ballpark number of new registrations that we have.
Where do the SDRs fall in that?
They fall in the ones that are on the elect number, because they were actually registered. So I'll be interested to see what that number is in December. So I'm not sure how they update that portion, but I'll be interested to see what that number is, and I'll report that as well. And that'll give us a good look for the heart of the election season, how many new registrations that we have. And I will say that some of them, I shouldn't say new. Well, there's new and then there's active. Some of the active number went up, but some of them I realized were people that were inactive becoming active. So they're not new registrations. They just moved over into the active category.
They turned up and voted.
Yeah, they did. They certainly did. So as far as our staff goes, that's what we're busy doing. We are registering. We have a separate number. It's about 483 of pre-registrations. So we're completing that number as well. Now that
16 and 17-year-old.
correct. And the requirement is they need to be 18 by the general election in 2026. And so we're not sure how many, I'm not sure exactly how many in that hopper are going to be there, but that's the number in the hopper. It may only end up being 300 because actually some of them are younger than that. They actually pre-registered, but they're not going to be 18.
Testing my understanding, if they are going to be 18 by November, then they can vote in the primary, but that wouldn't allow them to vote in a special election that is not related to the November election.
That's my understanding.
Wondering that too.
So, since you mentioned the primary, I'm sorry, the special election again, if we do have that, I'm gonna use that as an opportunity for voter outreach. Because I found that over the years, a lot of people, and if it's an amendment or a resolution, whatever that is, it can be really confusing to people. So we're gonna find a way to reach out to our entire electorate, maybe with a postcard or something like that, to tell them this is happening, to explain it a little bit, maybe even include a QR code to point them to more information about that. And just wanted to do that. Last thing I want to mention, it goes into the, I'm sorry, any questions about that so far? Last thing I want to mention, it dovetails into the upcoming conversation about the reorganization of 202. So I know that the board is working, is looking at the logistical part and some other things. I know that Jim had responded about some outreach that you did in writing. And so I talked to a few other people, and this is not my idea. This is not a new idea, but I think it's a good one. For the same day registrations and even the provisionals, we found that as we were going through them, that some of the required information was just skipped. It was just missed. And because that's missing, that's material, something that's required, those registrations, those ballots don't get counted. And so I think it's a good idea for us to take a look at this template. Believe me, this is a very rudimentary. Fred Flintstone would be happy with this, but it's not like what it actually looks like. But I wanted to just to show you what we'll be showing on a same day registration. So it's a template that you just overlay. So here's the scenario. So somebody is the same day registrant, they fill this out. Then the election officials have a template and they overlay the template on the filled out application. And you want to make sure that all of the places are showing having the right information in them, so you won't miss it. So this might be nice information to have, but we want to make sure that the required information is there. So it's just gonna be a simple overlay on the same day registration forms and also the provisionals, so that we help voters and also we help our election officials make sure that help them do their work. So this comes from a different group. I'm probably going to get it from Fairfax. I know that they have it. I know other groups have it, but I know Fairfax does.
Is there one particular piece of information that was missing? Or just
More than others?
Yeah,
I think from what I saw, there were two. There wasn't one particular one. There were two main ones. One was the citizenship
Are you a
question.
citizen?
Yes,
First question.
are you a citizen? And then the other one was put down that they were born in 2025.
We had a couple of folks indicated they were felons,
But they weren't.
but they weren't. Read the question wrong, I'm sure.
But those questions have to be answered. They have to be answered and then answered accurately.
The templates that have been used in other places, and I think Fairfax, as you said, was probably the first place that did it because they've got so many, have worked very well.
I think it's a great idea.
And if we get them, that'll guarantee elect changes the form.
So, all right, any other questions for me?
I have one totally off the subject. Keep forgetting to ask. Have you been able to pay our Viva membership fee that's normally handled by the office?
Not yet, but Bucky gave me the information for that. And now, is there something that you need to fill out before I pay it, or just because that part I
You need,
what do I need from you all?
you need to have the names of the 3 members for next year
Right.
because Viva asks that you pay it in advance.
Okay, gotcha.
And that's fine.
The nominations have to have gone through,
Yeah, so you can't send in the money until you know for whom you're paying it.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So I will ask. So the answer is it advanced yet? Anything else?
Questions?
Great to see everybody.
We thank you for your diligent work and the budget calls and looms, and we have to have money.
One thing last thing I do want to mention, I'm sorry, the last thing. One of our employees, her name was Brooklyn Eubanks. Her last day is tomorrow. And she's been with us for about 4 years. She is awesome. She's the youngest member on staff. But I call her a pro. You know, you just would not know. When she, you know, that she was as young as she is to know as much. So I just wanted to say on record how much I appreciate her. I mean, I've only been here not even 3 months yet. She's made a huge impression on me. I just wanted to make sure that people just really, we're gonna really miss her. And I just wanted her to know how much we really appreciate the work that she did.
And she's someone who works late. I mean,
Oh, yes.
she
Yes.
doesn't leave at 5 o'clock.
Yes,
So it's really good for the office, particularly in election season when
absolutely.
stuff is happening.
Sorry to see her again.
Yes, absolutely. And she's moving to New York. And as you said, Brooklyn is going to Brooklyn. She's gonna live. So,
Just a budgeting thought, it would seem like the expense profile for the primary and a theoretical special election would be almost the same.
yes,
You know, similar staffing requirements, all the fixed costs would be more or less the same, which may help the process of allocating those two budgets. Once
Yeah.
you've got one done, you more or less got the other one done.
yes, it was pretty hard to, I shouldn't say hard, it was intricate to break out the things that are not as clear. The biggest moving cost is the part-time hours and the overtime hours.
Right.
Those are the two biggest things that are hard to get. Okay. All right, well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, ma'am. We are now open for public comment. This board has a long tradition of having open public comment at the beginning of every meeting. You identify yourself by your name and if you're an affiliate with any other organization whom you're representing, that you try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. We also, which I want to compliment Albemarle County's electoral board for years, we enjoy having an interactive reaction and action with the public. There are some boards that are categorically opposed to public speaking or hearing their questions or answering their questions. We're not that way. We enjoy knowing what the public and Office of Election and people who come have to say in their comments. So we also engage in public comment during the meeting. We talk about some topic. We'll ask if there's a question, or if you will please raise your hand and wait until you're recognized so that we don't talk all over each other. Okay, anyone have a comment or question from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 202, I'm Nancy. Usually Michael's been the chief in 202, as you know, for, I don't know, 10 years or something, so he couldn't, so I was asked to. So from henceforth, we're always going to use the whole room, and I don't think.
Nancy, can we ask you to hold your comment
Yes.
until we have a whole section on university.
Yes.
That-
We're coming up soon.
Okay.
It's early on. Any other questions, comments? Anybody online? Nobody's got a question online. Okay. Well. Minutes, Jim, do you have approval of minutes to present?
We have minutes for November 20th.
Look fine to me.
Fine to me.
Yeah, it'd be approved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Old business. Here we go. New organization of precinct number 202. And this is the university precinct. It previously was at University Hall until University Hall was raised. And then there was a group, just for a little history, there was a group from the university, from Fire Rescue and Safety, and from the Electoral Board that got together to look for a different place. Because clearly, when the building's torn down, you can't have a polling place. And the consensus opinion from all of those gathered, they looked at several different places. and eliminated them for an assortment of reasons. Came up with Slaughter Recreation Center. There had been several attempts to explain to the university what polling place needs, such as time for cages to be delivered, time for officers of election to come in on Monday if they choose to set up polling place, extraction of the cages on the day after, and then it's an all-day process. The officers of election have to be there early in the morning, 5. I understand that your officers were there at 4:30 this year for reasons we'll explain. And despite at least 2 members of this board, and Jim has had conversations. I've had a face-to-face conversation with the facilities manager for Slaughter Rec. And yet they don't seem to understand. And I find this troubling. That the university, despite being told the time necessary to have an election, seem to think that they're special and they don't have to comply. So when this board got an email from the director of facilities manager, with whom I have had a conversation, with whom Jim has had a conversation, with whom the previous chief has had conversations, sends us an email that says, if we let you have Monday afternoon, it will, quote, and I'm quoting, will inconvenience 100 students because they won't be able to have their dance class. And you should also, I'm still quoting, you should also remember that it's an inconvenience to the students on election day that they can't use the facility for their dance class. I was very glad that I was alone in a room.
I'll fix that quote a little bit because they didn't refer to election day. They referred to your community event.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Jim. Election day is a community event.
And we're, of course, grievously interfering with dance class.
Yes. As someone who took 23 years of ballet lessons, I understand dance classes.
Why you're always playing.
That's right. Standing up. Exactly. But I don't think dance classes are more important, and I don't think they should stand in the way of an election. So the board has agreed. I have written a letter and have had that letter edited by someone and have honed it down to ask for a personal meeting with the dean of students, the head of facilities management, and anyone else the university wants to send, so that we can, in a civil, polite fashion, try to educate the University of Virginia that elections are important and that it was at the behest of the university that the electoral board put a polling place on the university grounds so the students could just walk over or take the university transit. Now, remember, not all people who are in the, quote, university precinct live on grounds. Maybe normal citizens who are not students. But they wanted an on-grounds facility. They chose it. Now we need to be able to use it. So that's the history. And I've tried to be as civil as I can be in describing why we need to have a polling place that we can use and that the officers can access. Unless the board has something else, I'd like to turn it over to Nancy. Jim, go ahead.
Well, we've really got 2 separate issues here. One is the university's cooperation with us, and the other is how to actually organize the precinct. So two things
Can
going.
I amplify that?
Hmm.
Just as the early in-person voting precinct is different from all the other precincts, university is different from all the other precincts. With the volume of same-day registrations that are done there in a general election being a couple of orders of magnitude greater than many precincts, it's a completely different environment. And the training and approach that we use in other precincts clearly isn't the right approach to use at university. And yet we haven't offered anything different to the university in how to do things. And in my mind's eye, that's the goal of today, is to at least get a start on the how can we do this better? Because it's time to recognize that you really are not just bigger, but different. It's an essential difference that requires an essentially different approach.
And so we want to hear from the reason we invited the officers from University polling place, so we can hear what you have to say. Because you're the ones who are there all day and half the night. And we want to know what you need before we start offering suggestions, etc. So, Chief, let me hear from you first.
Yeah, so, the 4:30 thing worked out fine. Everybody was very agreeable. We got it all up and running by 6. So if they are non-negotiable on that, we can live with it. The other thing is that met with a couple of EOs at their request, and we definitely will always need the whole space, not just half.
Both roads.
Both
Yeah, we
roads.
saw that in your notes
We
for
both-
the day, that was a conclusion at the end of the day. That's
Right, so I know there was a request in the middle of the day to open it up, but I talked to my EOs and they said, nope, that's just, it's not gonna work in the middle of the day. So we'll henceforth, if we can always have that, we'd like it. And we've been talking again with a couple of the EOs about how to restructure the room. And basically, what it comes down to is we have to have two kind of separate entities. One today voting and the other with about 7, maybe
Or
6
more.
people. And then one with like 8 or 9 people for same days. And how we organize that, I guess it's kind of still.
you basically need two different operations, recognizing that you
yeah.
have two essentially different populations that you're working with.
And again, that was my first time to chief. I used to chief Agna Hurt, did that for 10 years or so. But then when I accepted this job, I had no idea that we were going to need as many people as we needed. Clarabelle and Alex kept sending me them, and I'm like, I don't think we need that many. I apologize. We did. We could have used a couple more
Yeah.
people.
And I also.
Now we know.
I also will admit, I didn't think you were gonna need that many people.
It's these students just come in, and I'm very sympathetic to them, trust me. And they just want to vote. I get it. They want to do it today and however they can. I think the other problem that day was the ballot thing, and we've got that worked out. People putting their absentee
Mailed out
ballots.
absentee ballots in the wrong.
only there. That was kind of a sad situation, but I have to say the students, in the end, they were glad. Jim said, well, let them vote provisionally, and they were okay with that. They had issues in their Norfolk and all that they had wanted to vote for. God bless them, but they were willing to go with the provisional. So I think we worked that main thing out.
Another problem that you face, and if those of you who have never experienced university precinct during elections just don't know what you're missing. I mean, I have been in cage fights. I've never been in a cage fight. I have never been in a cage fight. I can only imagine from television programs. But it's not even controlled, marginally controlled chaos. And I take my hat off to all the officers of election, but they are dealing with students that just show up.
No, there's a different.
And they don't-
way to go.
They don't know anything. And So you're doing education, I was trying to conduct. Some diagrams. What the ideal policy look like, the ideal policy. It's nothing like that. Trying to have interest. People come in and go out the same doors. So very awkward. Trouble keeping track of when exit. And by having the two rooms, even if you reserved one room for same day registration, provisional ballot, you can still use an exit door. It's really an imperative, particularly at university. Yeah, yes, ma'am.
So one of the other things
Please
that,
enter- please.
I'm sorry, Kim Harris, I was one of the EOs, I have been blessed to be at the university precinct now for I don't know how many years, so.
Good for
So,
you.
I keep asking if I can move and nobody lets me leave, so.
Not saying.
So,
The punishment hasn't ended.
it has not, right? So, Paula is another one of our EOs. Paula and I often work the check-in, right? And so one of the things that is unique to us, I think, maybe more so than others, is that we have to deal a lot with like the mover rules because the students are going, right? And the students speak another language, right? Because when they say to you, I moved at the end of last year, they really mean the academic year, they don't mean, right? So I think number one, there does need to be a little bit more education for someone who's doing like the check-in stuff. Now, we've been doing it for quite a while. We don't really have an issue. We speak UVA, right? So, but when we have new people rotate in, it becomes problematic because we're trying to teach them and work with the students at the same time, right? So, and with the numbers that we have in November, it's very difficult. But one of the things that would also be very helpful is like we discovered you guys have provided a QR code that could tell people like where they needed to be. We need more access to more of those, but we also need access to information that says, hey, these dorms are in this precinct because like they're not all in university precinct. And it's helpful to us if we have some of that information so that we can go, oh, you're in Faulkner, that's actually, or whatever, right? And so we need more data like that helps us move them quickly if they are not in the right place, right? Or if the mover rules don't apply anymore, because sometimes what they do is, oh, I moved 2 years ago, because last year they were still allowed to vote in our precinct. Well, this year, so sorry, or it's now been too long. So that's the kind, I think there's some more education and just data needed that day for the people that are sitting there. I mean, it's fantastic when we have the list of the mover rules right there, right?
Good.
But I mean, we think there's a little more needed for us in terms of all the dorms and where everybody is.
And the students, a couple of students with whom I interacted said, I'm in such and such a dorm, I live on grounds. And we, did the spreadsheet, did the QR code. No, ma'am, you're in the city of Charlotte.
Right, exactly.
No, I live on grounds. I'm in a dorm. Yes, ma'am, you're in a dorm. It's not on grounds. You have to go to Cherry Avenue.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
maybe maps
That would help.
outside before they get to you.
You all did have a map that showed the line very
We
clear.
didn't have it this year, though. We couldn't find it
The
in
big maps didn't come.
they didn't come this year.
But one of the Democratic poll watchers, bless his heart, gave us a thing that we used at the same day registration of which dorms were in
Yeah.
our precinct, but that came like at half.
And when we saw it
Yeah.
later in the afternoon, we were like, oh, we could use that.
Yeah.
But it was the only
That was
copy.
in our
so-
office.
Yeah,
Came from
it
the
did get
city.
to us.
It came from the city.
Yeah, possibly.
We had one in Gina's office, I know, it was up on the wall.
It didn't, yeah, make it-
We didn't
There was
get
a,
it
you got the list of the dorms by name and whether they were city or
from
county.
somebody else.
From that
No,
came
you
through
didn't-
on election day.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. You didn't get that in your packet.
No,
I I understood that it was going, okay, thank you.
yeah, this election, this poll watcher, Xerox did everything. I was like, guys.
Yeah, I think it was the same sheet that was on the wall in Gina Pace's office.
The other thing
Looked
is
to me
that,
like it was the same sheet.
the other thing is that we cannot always rely on their ability to, and that's why I said the QR code would be great. And sometimes it is, however, it's terrible there, to try and get at you. They have trouble accessing even their student IDs sometimes, even when they're on the Wi-Fi, right? Because for whatever reason, Slaughter X Wi-Fi or we have zero connectivity or it's spotty at best.
About being in a metal building, signals
Yeah,
don't get in
right.
and out
So-
very well.
So it is difficult for the students sometimes, and it's difficult for us, right?
It just as.
Well, let me, I'll get to you, just one. That's something we've never heard.
Oh, it's
We've
bad.
never heard that.
Yeah.
That's a problem. Thank you.
I
Okay,
just want to add, as someone who goes to a lot of sports events over there,
but not in
Scott
Slaughter. Right?
Stadium, which is right beside it, I think, you can't get internet service.
Yeah.
Anywhere in that area. I don't know why, it's a black hole.
yeah.
Oh.
Internet service right there at the football stadium, that whole area.
But even when we log into the university guest network, it's spotty.
It's fun. Thank you. Jim.
I'd like to have a few minutes, if I may, not more than 5. First, real quickly, just a history of why that dang line is so crazy through there. Until, if I think I'm correct, until the mid-1950s, any land that the university acquired automatically became county land, even if it was, they bought it from the city. And then in the mid-1950s, they changed that rule. So if UVA bought land that was city land, it stayed city land. So that's why you have some of the dorms. And the line goes through the middle of a couple of dorms, Copeland apartments. So it's very difficult. I had a very interesting conversation with the chief election officer at Trailblazer, formerly Venable, which has roughly the same number of provisionals that we do, 100 less each time, but they really have a lot. And this woman, she's a hard charger. And she told me how they do things there, and she also sent me some of the stuff that they do. So one thing is, well, just so I don't forget to mention it, she really wants students to vote, if they can vote regularly somewhere, she wants them to vote regularly. She wants to keep down the number of provisionals. So
That's nothing new.
if it's a student that was in the university precinct and moved within the movers rules to Trailblazer precinct, she wants that student to go back to university, do a regular ballot, do a change of address. Because she thinks that's
We get a
better
lot of
for
those, yeah.
everyone.
We had a lot
So
of
she
that.
doesn't like it when we send people to her that could vote here, but that's just her way of looking at things.
It's ultimately a voter choice thing.
Exactly.
Not an EO
Not- no,
choice.
That's a choice, and they don't
Sounded
understand.
like she makes them go back. I said, do you not give them the option? She said, yes, I'd give them the option. But I think
We have a lot sent back to us.
With a little slip of paper saying, I'm registered for next year there, but they said I should come vote here.
and the students don't seem to mind because the
They do
distance
not.
there to Slaughter is not very big. She makes the whole process, and they only have one door. They have a room that, talking to her, it sounds like it's probably 1.5 of our rooms, not
a gym.
both rooms, bigger than the one room, smaller than the two. She makes the whole process very student centric. We make it EO centric. We make the EOs do much of the work. She makes the students do the work. So when they come in, she tries to have an express lane for regular people as opposed to the provisional people. And we kind of tried to make that happen, but kind of got jumbled up. They come in, they get a green envelope, they get a clipboard, and they get a laminated instruction sheet, two-sided instruction. Oh, you've got it up there. Okay, great. I didn't know how to send it. And these are the kind of things they have on their instruction sheet. Go a little bit.
The number 3 on there, many students, and we want to hear from y'all. So we need to stop talking and listen to y'all. But they don't all know their social security.
So anyway, the students are responsible for filling out their green sheet. Plus she has posters up on the wall with these same kind of things. And then they bring their green envelope back to an EO who barely checks it. He tells them usually just check the sign. If they mess up somewhere else, they've got the instructions. It's their fault.
Then it's not gonna count.
And it's not going to
Correct.
count. They are then given a ballot and they are sent off to marking booths and they never come back to an EO.
And you don't know whether that ballot gets in the machine or whether it,
Ah, yes, you do.
well,
I'll tell you.
you should know.
I'll tell you how in a second. So they mark their ballot, they put it in the green envelope, and they're told after you mark your ballot, put it in the green envelope and go over there and put it in the provisional ballot box. So it never comes back to the EO. Now, the
But it has
provisional,
to, because we have to do that log.
oh, wait, that's another part of it. When the student gets their green envelope, she also has made Avery labels that match what's on the left side of the provisional log, and the student fills out those labels.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's,
And so when they come back, the EO puts the label on the log, puts the 4 digits of the social security number on the right side, gives the student a ballot, sends them off. They put it in the envelope and they carry it over to the provisional ballot box, which is near to the optical scanner. And we would say, whoa, you can't do that. I don't know whether they do it for every precinct. I know they do it for that precinct and maybe for all precincts. They print provisional ballots that are different from our regular ballot. I'm guessing they don't have the timing marks in it.
Is that
So-
legal?
you're not supposed to do that. All the ballots are supposed to be the same, Jim.
Well, I don't know about that, but they do that because that way the student tries to put it in the optical scanner, the optical scanner will not accept it. So
Well, our
they,
technique is folding, which I
Right,
think is
right,
foolproof.
I told her.
Yeah.
But they do that, so their provisional ballots are a separate type of ballot than the separate ballot style. So I guess you have 2 ballot styles for every precinct, and one's a provisional ballot style.
There
And
are
I don't
lots
know
of-
whether that's legal or not.
Ask the voter these 6 questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, look at these.
Okay, there's a comment, Todd Barstow.
Yes, first of all, I served with Nancy as assistant chief, both, pardon me, I'm a little hoarse, both this election and the general in November. And so have had those are my only 2 elections at university. So my observations are based on those 2. But I'd like to echo, in terms of my sentiments, what Jim has just said, that it seems that we put a lot of the burden on the EOs to make sure the process is right. Whereas I agree in principle with the idea that the students, before they get in, preferably get into our facility, are as equipped as they can be to mark their own SDR sheets or envelopes and then present them to us for review. It gets manic when we're trying to work through educating them. And, for example, in this last election, I had sometimes 3 and 4 at a time who were sitting around me just trying to clear the backlog. Okay. So that's a general observation. In terms of the first cheat sheet that Jim put up, the idea that the student must know their address not only would and come with a street address, not just a dorm name and a suite number, is absolutely key, I think. I know that caused all of you who had to process the SDRs a lot of work on the back end. And my experience with asking students for that address at the desk was that they just didn't know it in many cases. And that's definitely not the place when they're sitting in front of you. In our current process, that's not the place for them to try to figure their address out, right? And so, just a couple of comments to add to what Jim and the others have stated.
Thank you.
Did you want to say something else? You're muted.
Thank you.
No, that's it. Unless somebody has any questions about what I have.
Would
stated.
be off, because that is a problem, and I am not convinced that a dorm name satisfies the Constitution or the code's requirement for giving an address. I'm certainly-
Under the bridge satisfies the requirement. if
Well,
that's
under the
reasonable.
bridge, you have to specify which bridge.
Indeed.
But I'm not sure. But would it help? So my question to the officers, with all the additional information we're trying to provide for you, would it be beneficial if on the wall out there at university where you've got this mass of people trying to get in line, would it help if you had a list of all the dorms, both city and county, divided, county dorms, university precinct dorms. These are the dorms that are in university precinct, and this is their address.
Yes.
Not just a map, a handout.
Well, that's a good idea. That's really good.
I mean, a handout would be perfect, yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, the students get confused because there are two addresses usually.
Yeah.
There's the name and then there's the street address, and they're like,
They don't understand that the name of the dorm is not really an address.
But those dorm names are in our street file.
I understand that, but that requires another lookup by the officers.
Well,
And so if you
the
put some,
method used at Trailblazer is hoist that off on the students.
well, that's what I'm saying. If you had several readable big maps, no, I don't mean maps, several bullet points. These are the precincts that if you live, excuse me, the dorm, if you live in one of these dorms, you vote here. If you don't, you vote wherever the others are, sometimes city, maybe another county polling place. But if you had in alphabetical order the names of the dorms and the physical street address, please know this is the street address you will need. Write it down. I agree having a handout would be lovely, but you're talking 1,000 handouts.
Oh, no, at the EO.
At the EO.
EO
We
desk.
need those at the EO desk.
Absolutely, both places, but trying to get the students prepped for when they walk in, and the guidance from the Department of Elections says that the officers of election are supposed to help the voter. I'm not saying I agree with it or not agree with it. I'm just telling you what goes out. Yes,
I want to
ma'am.
mention one
Speak.
other thing on what the city does. She's an IT professional, Jessica Ote, the chief there. She created her own app using the city's GIS, but the city's GIS, like ours, is too hard to use. She created an app and created a QR code for it. We used an app from the state, and Alex created a QR code for that.
Well, there are lots of localities that have students with they call them on campus polling places. And talking to many of the officers who have worked in those, I have yet to come across one that's really less chaotic than university. And some of them are even worse. If that's, I mean, not saying be lucky you're not there, but some of these places are absolute bedlam. And you can't have an election like that. I mean, these are students. These are people that have shown their intelligence enough to get accepted to a college or university. They could presumably read and write.
Right.
Well, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, hi, I'm Paula Dickinson, so I'm an EO from it. I think, first of all, I want to thank you all for having this meeting and inviting us here to get our input on this. And it's true that that in general, university students are of higher IQ. That may not be coupled with common sense in all cases. But one of the things that I think makes the university precinct so unique is not provide to make them be successful and therefore want to come back and participate in this wonderful democracy that we have, I think the better and the better we will feel about the work we do.
I really like the
Yeah.
word you've used, scaffold. I think that's a good word because they're climbing.
Well,
It's really good.
I have an education background, and the bottom line is we need to get everybody to the same point
Exactly.
where their vote is counted and they are participating. People need different degrees of support to get there. And I think it is incumbent upon us to come up with those systems that streamline that. I mean, if someone is a curbside voter, we don't go, too bad.
Exactly.
Get up and walk in. So, somebody shows up and they don't know their address, I don't go, too bad.
I agree.
But I do think that here is another opportunity to partner with the university or to see if we might be able to partner with them to let students know in advance, what do they need? You're gonna need to know your social security number if you're same day registering here. So I'm just wondering if we might not be able to leverage some of those internal systems that the university has and to get them to partner with us a little bit more.
And that was one of the things I'm just going to bring up to the dean of students, and it's not necessarily the facilities, but the dean of students, education of the student body. I mean, you can, as the old folks would say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You can try to educate them. Some of them will and some of them won't. But everybody does the rah, you gotta vote, you gotta vote, you gotta vote. Okay, we got that. Voter participation is important. But they don't, when they're talking about, make sure you vote. They don't dig into the
And this is
scaffolding. This is what you need to do.
This is how-
And think how much easier it would be if you did it a month before by filling in a form and mailing it. I mean, you wouldn't have all this hoorah.
Right. Well, and I was just going to go back to also to the Trail Days Incredible Precinct. They're getting second year students,
Yeah, exactly.
right? I
Exactly.
mean, like we've got all the first year students at the university. So
Exactly.
they often are getting somebody who has gone through the process, at least in part, somewhere at the university. So.
And many of you, they're sending back to you, vote back there again.
With a little slip of paper. Yes, they did that quite frequently. But my point is that I think that we just really do need to remember, we need to assume good intentions on the part of every single player in this, even the facilities people. I mean, they're trying to protect the dance class. And while we can go, oh, come on, for pity's sake, if you're a dancer, that's very important. So, I mean, I just think that we just need to assume good intentions. That's
Yes, ma'am.
I can, something that you said struck me about, hey, if you did it a month before, and completely agree. I will say, we have had a number of cases where the students have come in and said, well, I did register, and they have the little slip, right? You know, that's somebody, a third party will give you, right? And they are not in our system. And so I don't know what's happening, but I know after the last general, I think it was, I actually called the registrar's office and said, it wasn't this one, it was the one before, and said, I'm concerned because I had enough of those that I don't know who's registering students to vote, but is it getting into our system? Are they actually turning it? Because these kids think they have registered and they're still having to do same days.
Yeah.
Because they're nowhere to be found. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on, but
The tear-off slip is a result of General Assembly law. If a third party registers, finds a person on the street and says, you want to register to vote, here's the form, fill it out. They have to complete so that the potential voter, the applicant voter, knows who the person, or they have something that is written down that says, John Jones helped me register to vote with a telephone number.
Yep.
Because you're absolutely right. Some of those applications don't get back to a registrar's office anywhere. And some of those, once they get to a registrar's office, may or may not get into the system. And that was what you heard from Janelle McFadden this morning. She is paying special attention and reorganizing to make sure that all of the registrations, the actives, the inactives, the mailed out, the absentee, all of that is organized. But thank you for bringing that up.
On the topic, I was physically present when several times I saw people delivering stacks of applications to the registrar's office prior to
Yeah.
the election. So
In the hundreds.
people are bringing them in stacks. And then the folks in the office are, beating them into the system. But I can't say that all the stacks ever
Exactly.
arrive.
Or old stacks that, well, I registered last year.
Nancy has a,
Hi, I'm Nancy Takahashi.
I'm sorry, I couldn't see you.
That's okay. Nancy Takahashi and said 202. And well, first of all, I want to really applaud Nancy and Todd for their leadership in a day of chaos. It really made things happen and smoothly. So their leadership was really great. I want to comment on this. I was at the SDR table, the provisional table, and there's one aspect of it that is just crazy. And that is the fact that we have to take each one of the provisional ballots and then log it onto a sheet of paper. There was one of our fellow EOs, Kashmir. He spent the entire day with stacks of these things, just rewriting what was there on, and then probably taking bad handwriting. And if I was doing it, replicating bad handwriting on a log. So it's really untenable, and we need to find a way, I think, to make a change there. I don't know if anyone else will agree how that was.
I know your former chief, Mike Merriam, that was a big thing to him, that can we not do this electronically?
Yeah.
Why do we have to do this on paper?
Because you may not have electronic capability
Well,
where you are. And Wi-Fi capability or not in a precinct is prohibited under the code for election stuff. But
But you could, I'm sorry, but you could put it into a Google Doc. And
Sure,
run it
sure.
offline.
Sure. The Code of Virginia requires the provisional ballot logs. And one of the reasons that it does is because the party or candidate representatives that go to the provisional ballot canvass and the electoral boards must be given those logs so that we can compare them to the provisional ballot envelopes to make sure that the information is correct.
Well, I maybe heard a suggestion that would require the applicant to fill out a little sticky with that information and just put it on the log. which makes.
That
no-
seems to
would
work
make
for the
a lot of
city.
sense.
The
I don't have
problem,
a. May I
Go ahead.
finish? My only problem with that is the terrible, terrible handwriting.
exactly.
Students.
If it's,
And if you
that was
can't
one
read
of
it
the
in one
things that we
place,
were
you can't read
checking
it.
for at the table. Just saying, what's this letter here? We were checking that, so
One of
that
the,
might get at it.
sorry, one of the major responsibilities of the officers is to make sure that on the green form, whether it's the same day or provisional, that it's legible. And we drove that home in all of our teaching. It's got to be legible. And if you have the student filling out the sticky, you've not corrected whether you can
Well,
read it or not.
You can check the sticky and see if it is legible, and then if not, you make changes, but that seems like a really easy solution to me. At 7 o'clock, there might have been 200 SDR things sitting there to be logged on.
I was wondering how, when you finish the logs,
Yeah.
because I was
Yeah.
helping with the logs.
Exactly, right.
Which takes us back to Nancy's point. You need more people. If you're going, or whoever, I think maybe everybody said it. If you're going to run this polling place, you need adequate numbers of officers.
Yeah, I will say though,
Let's
you
speak to the
all,
log question.
oh, I'm sorry, but
We've tried to make the point that we need the logs the next day. We're required to provide those to observers that come to the process. But the logs have another function that they are commonly used for in polling places. And I think they would apply here too at university. And that is that no matter what I do to review the contents of a provisional envelope, by the time I've done 50 of them, I'm not doing the same job I did on the first one. But when I have to transcribe some of that information from here to there, I actually have to look at it. And if you accomplish that before the voter departs, if there is something that is missing or illegible, you actually detect it at that point.
Exactly.
So there's a valid QC component to filling in the log that doesn't apply if you fill in the log long after the voter is gone. If you've got a stack of 200 of them, you're not getting any of that benefit. But there is a potential benefit that can be reaped from doing that. And not back to the SDR envelope, not having a properly completed and legible envelope means we don't get that vote. And so all the effort that went into that on the part of the voter and the part of the EOs were wasted, and the voters can get registered. Their registration may not count, and their vote may not count. So it is, in my not at all humble opinion, worth the extra effort to make sure and to use the log recording process as a part of making sure. Now, it doesn't have to be done by the same EO that has been talking to the voter, but it really needs to be done before the voter leaves the polling.
And that's exactly, thank you, Bucky. That's exactly what we taught when we were teaching the classes. Thus, my question, you need more people. So that you don't have what Todd described as 4 students that he's trying to, it's like being a blackjack dealer.
It was like that.
I know, I saw it.
I asked-
And you got this man, these 2 people sitting in chairs. They didn't even have a table.
Yes.
And they've got the stacks on the floor and they're writing on their lap. I mean,
I was
that's a recipe for disaster.
I asked the city chief how many people she had. She had 18.
Just for SDRs.
No,
No, for her
No,
whole
no.
precinct.
you had
We
16,
had,
correct?
we had 16. We had 18 for the general election.
And it we had many discussions on trying to get enough people to give you what you needed. I mean, at one point, the suggestion was made that we only needed 9 people. And after I fell out of my chair and got back up, I said, no. So, yes, ma'am, go.
So I was just gonna say the staffing, I mean, one of the other challenges is that if the election is held when the university is on spring break or during this, we are all kind of sitting around twiddling our thumbs
Yeah.
because we're used to,
Yeah.
here comes the rush, and we had what, like 69, I mean, no, 39,
Yeah.
the numbers just vary widely.
You're gonna see different results in them. And that's
Exactly.
true for every polling.
But the primary also aligned to a spring break, so the students aren't in town.
The primary would be the summer break. It would be the summer's the third Tuesday in June.
Okay, summer
The-
break.
The voter turnout in every polling place is dramatically lower in the summertime.
Yeah. But some people might say, I'm sorry, Jim, I want to finish her thought. Some people might say you deserve a break.
Oh, that
If
was
you got some time to breathe on that election day,
good for us.
good for you.
I'm not sure who AG is, but a lot of information
And-
here. And one is, I'm trying to copy it down. Is that HMS.housing?
Yeah, that's the link on, we had actually looked at this on the
Yeah.
university's website where you can sort of do a translation between a dorm name and a
Physical
a
address.
physical address.
Yeah.
And it's tricky because you have to fill in all three fields, which are the which suite number or room number, which bed number, as well as the name of the dorm. And if you skip over one of those, it just won't give you any information. So
It
just
cuts
the
you off.
street address of the building, please. No.
Several years ago at redistricting, 10 years ago, Jim will remember this. The General Assembly in its infinite wisdom drew the boundary lines and they split a dorm
That's what, yeah. She's just
down the middle. You remember that. So the people on I don't know if it's north, south, east, or west, but everybody on the west side of the hall was in one polling place and everybody on the east side was you kidding me?
Right.
So this electoral board went to Rob Bell was our representative at the time and said, no. You guys need to fix this. And he got it fixed. But that was just over the top, minute. Todd, you got your hand up. Please unmute.
Yes. So does this resolve what I thought was still an open issue regarding addresses and dorm names? It seemed like you and Jim maybe had a little bit different takes on whether a true street address is required or it isn't, or it's a technicality. And I think there's a fair amount of complexity in terms of what you want to do next in terms of education or preparation that's driven by the need for a street address.
Well,
Because the students all know their dorm, which is why, which is why the vast majority of the forms you got just had a dorm name and the room number. Okay. So I think it's important that be, if that resolves it, that post, and it's very clear that it's required by NDRA and Virginia Code, then that's going to drive one set of actions. And if it's subject to interpretation, I think you should resolve that before you take the next steps on how to improve things.
absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, but it's not a question that we can decide in this electoral board. This is a
No, I
question
didn't.
needs to be done statewide because again, there are lots of polling places on university campuses. What we all know is you can't use a post office box as your residence. Nobody lives in a post office box.
Sure.
Okay, how small your dorm room is. But there are places in Virginia who actually register voters with a post office box or an academic building. You can't do that. That's against the law. Whether you need to have a street address is something that maybe the General Assembly or the AG or somebody else needs to decide.
This is an ancillary topic to the university question.
Yep.
So I would suggest we should get
Well,
back to the university question.
Well, I was trying to answer Todd's. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Question, my name is Sherry Steffen. What about homeless people who don't have
They
an
can,
address?
they can register and the way the codes is written, it says where you expect to be for the foreseeable future. And if that homeless person says, I expect to be, as Bucky said, under the bridge, under the Rivanna River Bridge on the Rivanna Trail, there's an encampment along the trail. Hope it doesn't flood. That's perfectly legal. absolutely.
For
They, but,
registration form. It may be on private property. It may not be legal for them to live there.
but they can also, and they are invited with great vigor, I hope, to put down a mailing address under the form that says mailing address, so that if someone needs to get in touch with them, their polling place changes. There's something wrong with, they can't get their notification that now you're a registered voter. They need to have a mailing address. It doesn't have to be a post office box. It could be a church. I go to this church, or this church takes mailings for the, you certainly can be registered to vote and not have a permanent address.
Do we want to discuss your three options now or not?
They were just some ideas. I don't believe we can actually solve the whole problem today. There are a lot of facets to
Did you
this.
get a copy of the three options he had?
Are they in one of these papers?
No,
No,
no.
no,
I didn't really intend them for discussion here. It's too much material to go over.
Okay. But maybe we'll send that to
Sure, happy to.
Nancy and send it along.
Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this? Yes, ma'am.
The only comment I would make is I would encourage the city electoral board and the county electoral board to get together and try to solve that.
It's, as we've said, it's not just a Charlottesville city and an Albemarle County.
I understand, but right now, right here, it is between the city and the
That's a
county.
good idea.
That's a fine idea. I would also submit that what we need is a planning education meeting that's maybe not an open electoral board meeting, but for the officers of election, and that becomes an education training session for, I'm seeing agreement from the chief. Is that,
yeah.
does that make sense? And then we could, be prepared for a sit down, get comfortable and sort it out, hopefully before April, although once again, it will be a special election and you probably, unfortunately, will not have a great turnout in a special election, but we need to be prepared for it.
To Linda's suggestion, I plan to, hopefully today, contact people that, we have a statewide organization, Virginia Electoral Board Association. We have our annual meeting in March, I believe it is this year. I think it's in March. And I'm going to see if we have breakout sessions of different size localities and that. I want to have a breakout session of localities that have big student populations and have, so everybody can kind of put their best practices and answer some of these questions, maybe. That's a good idea.
Collaboration's always good.
Yeah. Because again, as bad, as disorganized, or as chaotic, we're not the most disorganized and chaotic. You can
Could
only,
be worse.
I know that doesn't make anybody
Students
feel
don't
better, but
money. They're just not complaining.
but it needs to be straightened out, and it
Yes.
needs to be straightened out by clear definitions and clear instructions.
Is Nancy chief from now?
She doesn't know. We don't know what she's gonna do. We're treating her with kindness.
No, Mike's coming back.
Nobody holds any job forever.
Okay, if anybody has anything else,
I'll just say,
yes, ma'am,
so
please.
I like the ideas from the city lady. You may or may not understand. I'm completely opposite from her. I hold the students' hands. They are first years. But I think there's a balance. So it's a good thing for us to start thinking about.
Thus the template that Jonelle was talking about. A lot of places use the template because then it's easy to see what you've got to have right, and it's got to be there, and it's got to be legible. The other thing is the comment about the logs. Logs, unless the General Assembly just, does away with them, which who knows. But you have to have it's a checks and balances.
We'll work with it.
And that's a staffing issue. We had more than one person on.
Exactly. If you have enough officers and they are separated, so they're, I mean, when I walked in and I don't see Todd on the call anymore, and I was really glad that it was his wife. Todd and his wife were sitting she was practically on his lap.
No.
Yes. They were so
There's
close.
no impropriety there.
That is not what I was implying at all.
I am on and I can
There you are.
confirm that she was not on my lap.
I'm just,
So,
give up. I'm trying to help you, Todd.
Do I have to put this?
You need more space so that when you don't have 4 students at once.
sure.
You've got enough people with enough table space, and you don't have an officer sitting in a chair or 2 officers sitting in a chair working with stacks of paper on the floor.
Yeah, that's how we were set up
Using
last
Yeah, I know. I was-
November, and it worked out much better. We just couldn't change in the middle of the day with the number of people we had this year. So,
Great.
Nancy, I will send you what Bucky worked up as
Okay.
3 possible ways to organize the room.
Well, you'll never find it in an email. I'll send it to her.
No,
All right.
Okay, do we have anything else that we need to?
We need to thank these good people for coming
We do.
in and sharing their time with us and their ideas.
That was exactly what I was getting ready to say. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. If you'd like to stay for the rest of the meeting, you're certainly welcome. But if you'd like to go home and have some hot coffee,
Thank you for your lovely invitation.
thank you. Thank you. Okay, next is election officer accounting reports.
it's an office account. That's what
That was what,
Janelle said she doesn't have.
and she's gonna do the accounting. The ADA inspections and certificates have all gone in.
Where are they?
They went in online.
Do we have copies of any of those reports?
I can get them. I think.
'Cause it would seem,
Sure.
it would seem to make sense to maintain those so
Yeah.
that when we've got to go back, if there was an issue or a
Yep.
problem or a question, we've got it to refer to.
That's why they were sent that way, yes. Because there are other things that are obviously important also for which there's no record.
Yeah, I've been sending
So-
mine to Alex, so he's got all of the ones I did.
Okay. Electoral board policy on EO some assignments. Bucky, you put this on, we'd like to discuss this.
Yes, this is the policy attached to your documents that we took comments on last time. I tried to incorporate what you put in there. I hope I did a good job on that. And we kicked that down to this meeting to take up and sign it. And the purpose here is to codify what we actually do so that there's no confusion among ourselves or among staff what our expectations are.
Would you like to run through this for people who may or may not have this, but who are interested in officer election?
I can. It's been posted online, so everyone who picked up the online minutes has a copy of it.
Not everybody looks online.
All right, number 1, only the electoral board appoints new officers of elections.
That's code.
That's not a choice, that's
That's
a
code.
thing. Officers election appointed to 1-year or 3-year terms beginning March 1st of the year they are appointed. Officers of election appointed to 1-year terms are appointed contingent upon the return of the necessary paperwork and oath documentation. The elections manager within 3 weeks of their appointment or such other period as the electoral board may specify.
Yeah,
This is something that we had discussed earlier this year and voted on as something we wanted to do because a frightening number of EO applications come to us. We say, yes, you can be an EO, and then we never hear from them again. Under the code, once we have made someone an officer of election, it is relatively hard to unmake them. So you just wait them out until their appointment ends. We're making all those appointments contingent upon the actual return of materials, so they don't even get on our roster until they send stuff back to us and have sworn the oath.
and so they need to be told in writing. when the letter goes out that says you've been appointed, but you have to do all these other things. And we need to have that information back within 3 weeks, or you'll have to start at the beginning again.
Is the comment in there at the end about or such other periods will be specified?
I'm sorry, Rick, I can't.
Yeah, this is Rick Garnett.
The intent of that is to cover the situation where you're right in front of an election and you want to give people a shorter time window to get back to you. Get back to us within 1 week or 2 weeks or something like that, because there's an election coming in 5 days.
But it also covered like someone says, yeah, I'm in Europe and I won't be
Sure.
home for 6 months or 3 months. Do I have more time?
They can also do it online.
Yeah, the oath part might be a little hard. Also, people can always reapply. If they let us know what's going on, just take another
Yeah,
application.
okay.
But the idea was that we weren't trying to deal with individual cases. We were trying to deal with situational, where we're coming up on election. I don't have 3 weeks for you to get back to me. If you're going to be an officer of election, I need you to get back to me within a week or 10 days, because in 12 days, we're having an election. At the first February meeting, the electoral board, the elections manager will bring to the board 2 lists: those officers of election whose terms are expiring and who are recommended for reappointment, and those officers of election whose terms are expiring who are not recommended for reappointment. Each of these lists will be subdivided into groups of officers of election who have 1-year appointments and groups with 3-year appointments. Only the electoral board can decide to reappoint or not reappoint an officer of election. The idea here is that if you've had someone who's been an appointed officer for 1, 2, 3 years, and they've never worked an election, it might be time not to reappoint them, or even for on a 1-year basis. And you may also have feedback from the elections manager based on the evaluation of an officer as to whether they were really good, not really good, borderline. And things like that might contribute to why someone who had a 1-year appointment was appointed for another 1-year period of time. Because we really haven't gotten a good feel for this person yet.
Bucky, if I may,
Mhm.
people frequently fall into that latter category. The chief writes a report, an evaluation, and maybe other officers in that same polling place will speak to one of the board members or the election manager and say, there's a reason why this person really maybe should be reconsidered for doing something else. And frequently in the past, boards, not just our board, not just the 3-year, but previous boards, have said, well, instead of unappointing somebody, we just won't assign them. We've got plenty of other officers we can use. We just won't assign them until their term runs out, rather than saying, we think you should not be an officer of election, which Bucky say it's hard to unappoint.
I prefer disappoint, but
It's probably
the
both.
proper use of the word. Officers of election who have not worked for the past 2 years or longer will generally not be considered for reappointment. If you're not in the game anymore, we'll just take you off the rolls until you want to play, and then you can always reapply. Officers of election who have not worked for 1 year or longer may not be considered for reappointment, or if they have been in touch with the elections manager as to why they have been unavailable and previously had satisfactory performance, they may be considered for reappointment. Former officers of election who were not reappointed may apply again to be an officer of election. The electoral board has final approval for any appointments as a chief or an assistant chief officer of election. This is in response to an unfortunate circumstance that we had earlier this year, where the rosters of chiefs and assistant chiefs were sent out to the chiefs and assistant chiefs before the electoral board had actually approved them, and they were not correct. That led to some unpleasant discussions. The electoral board approves the rosters of officers of election who are assigned precincts for an election. Such rosters will always, sorry.
Can we modify that sentence?
Sure.
The electoral board approves the rosters of officers of election who are assigned to precincts by the election manager. Election.
I
We're
would,
still approving. Yeah.
I would,
That's one reason we have an election manager. Have the election manager do that.
and it's caused problems in the past. if the,
Why
it says
approving
it,
them is in there.
well, the initial assignment may be done by either the board or the manager.
I,
But it can be open for discussion, or it's up to the board to make the final decision.
well, that's what it says. The electoral board approves the rosters of officers.
So I don't think you have to add anything else to that sentence. I think it stands alone.
I move that I'm making a motion.
I agree, Jim.
Say who are assigned to precincts by the election manager.
Your friendly amendment has been accepted.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay.
Such rosters will always be made considering parity unless the election is a single party primary. Home precinct assignment, the size of the precinct, officer experience, officer evaluations, and previous assignments of the officer election to this or other precincts. Once, a single word here, once initial roster approval has been received, the elections manager may replace individuals who drop out for any reason or make such other assignments as seem necessary and proper to the elections manager for the conduct of the election. Updated rosters will be provided to the electoral board on a regular basis as new assignments are made, and will additionally be provided to any electoral board member on request. The electoral board can overrule any assignment as it sees fit.
My comment may or may not be directly related to that. But one of the things that we heard at the hot wash, one of the things that we saw in chiefs' evaluations or comments that chiefs made were last minute assignments, meaning literally the week before an election. We all understand that people get sick. They have whatever circumstances and they call it and say, I can't work. And you've got to do something. If you're right at the edge of how many officers you need to put somebody in there or not. It may be that you don't need another person. Maybe already overstaffed at that point. But I think we need to be particularly careful about not putting people in polling places at the last minute, unless again, you're filling an emergency vacancy. Or you've been trying to get people and you haven't been able to get enough, and then suddenly you've got people you can assign.
I just have a question for Alex. Can you give me a ballpark estimate of how many dropouts you had in the last 2 weeks before the election?
They're in crops. So what if they can't work the June primary? But that doesn't mean they won't be ready to go in November. And we had people last year who were simply because they didn't work the June primary after giving notice of why. So
I don't understand what you would change in here.
I don't know. I don't know how to change it except
Because it sounds like you're saying, let's use good judgment in getting rosters assigned in advance.
exactly.
And try to minimize the number of people who do that at the end.
It's exactly what I'm trying to say. That's why I started by saying I'm not sure it's really germane to number 10.
But I agree with the principle.
Or 11.
Number 11, upon request and at a reasonable charge not to exceed the actual cost incurred. Pull that right out of the code. The elections manager shall provide a copy of the list of officers of election, including their party designation and precinct to which they are assigned to any requesting political party or candidate. This list shall include officers of election who have not been assigned to a precinct as well.
Just a quick question on that. It doesn't say to who the party. Does that matter? It used to be, I think, go to the chairs, but do you want to leave it open?
What's that to the requesting political party? I can, the code has more specificity about this. I'm just trying to lay down the concept that you got to give out stuff.
Okay.
Rick,
For it.
Again, it's the code, and it's code 24.2-115, paragraph E.
If it goes to the chairman.
It can go to it can go to the chairman or the chairman's designated representative. And it goes in that same, it says that the list of appointed officers of election can be readily available to anyone. Their name. That's the list of appointed officers of election as soon as they are appointed by the board. Then they go on the list, and the list is available in the registrar's office to anyone. Then not less than 10 days before the election, the roster, meaning the precinct assignments and the party designation, shall be available to the chairman or the chairman's representative or a candidate. Yes, ma'am.
Will they, Sherry Stephen, will they, is it just our name? But
Yes,
will
ma'am.
they won't have our personal address or our email or phone number?
The name, the party designation, and the precinct to which you are assigned.
That's the one that goes to the parties,
Right.
not the one that's there for anybody from the public.
The one that's for the public is the name.
Just the name.
That's it. Alphabetical order.
No, we did do something earlier about adding on a thing where the officer can say if their contact information can be made available to party chairs, right?
Yes.
That's what you put.
If the officer gives written consent.
Right. Okay.
Number 12 is a point of personal interest to me. The elections manager will make available to the electoral board or any member of the board on request the contents of the complete database of officers of election, both officers who are assigned to precincts and those who are not. The board and its individual members will take reasonable and customary care of this information to prevent its dissemination beyond the board.
Yep.
Which doesn't really sound like a big thing, but I spent a couple of months this year when I started trying to get this information out of the then current elections manager, and only found out 6 months after that that I never did actually receive the whole list of information that was available, which frustrates me no end, as you can hear at this time. So I'm putting in the policy that the purpose that I wanted this information for, I was trying to do an analysis of how many of our officers of election are not working in their home precinct. And the key piece of information I wanted, which was where's their home precinct, was omitted from the data that I was provided. So it took a lot longer to do the analysis than it should have. But I did, and it worked out that less than half of our EOs are in their home precinct.
And to Bucky's point, the board looks at the applications. So we know what their home address is because it's on their application. So
just want to make it clear that anyone from the board can get this information in toto whenever they want it.
Yep.
And at the same time, we have a responsibility to make sure that people's personal information doesn't become public. So I can't leave printouts on the table when I leave the meeting room and someone else absconds with a whole list of EOs. Officers' election can only be removed from the database of available officers of election on approval from the electoral board. Such approval may come in the form of non-reappointment or may occur due to the removal of a specific officer of election as provided for in the code. This would seem to be self-evident from what's gone before in this, but I wanted to drive home the point that nobody takes an officer of election out of our database unless one of these two situations has occurred. We didn't reappoint them, or they've been removed.
And I want to point out for the audience, there is a difference between appointment and assignment. So there are cases where we have appointed someone, but we don't assign them.
You see a ton of those in a primary. Half the EOs sit home.
you don't need them. The other point that Bucky alludes to, and he's very careful in what he said, there have been people who have been appointed by the board but then sort of whether that was intentional or just for record keeping, no. But there were people who were approved who should have been assigned, and they just sort of faded into Neverland. That shouldn't happen.
And then the last point on here is just as the board votes everything in with a simple majority, we can vote to amend, suspend, revise, or delete this policy in whole or in part by a majority vote of members of the board. Policy doesn't shackle us for all time to do only these things.
No policy does.
Policy.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any further discussion? We should have had a discussion. Is there any further discussion?
I feel like we did.
I think we did too. Okay, hot wash recap. I thought we had a great hot wash. We did it a little bit differently this year. Bucky supplied a wonderful bowler hat, and we put the names of all the precincts, and we all were thinking the same thing. So we had about, I don't know, 4 or 5 little baskets of names of precincts that we used, but we only used one in the hat. And then the 3 board members picked out names and called on the chiefs or the assistant chief, so that we didn't go to Woodbrook first every year or
Or around the table.
around the table, depending on where you were sitting. This way it was whatever. And we asked that people come up with 3 or 4 several important points they wanted to make. And if anyone else agreed with that, they raised their hand. So, okay, you don't have to talk about that when it comes to you. Come up with something else. I thought we got good feedback. We had, wow, yes, sir.
Yeah, I guess my only comment was, it seemed that we spent an awful lot of time patting ourselves on the back about how wonderful we were. I would prefer we spend more time talking about what
What we
did
can
not go
fix.
Well,
well,
that was,
how we can improve.
yep.
Because there wasn't that much on there. I almost got the feeling that you stood up and said something went wrong, you were gonna get hammered because everyone was saying everything was so wonderful. So that's just a thought, observation.
I thought the same thing going around, because the board, the manager, other EOs, we've all talked. We're all, the reason you have a hot wash is to make necessary improvements. Yeah, it's good to say we did this well. We improved this over the last election and it worked. We liked it. But everything was not hunky-dory everywhere. And I thank you, Rick. Thank you.
I'd like to ask Alex, how you thought of it. Do you think we got some meaningful ideas for improvement?
We did. So looking forward to implementing those for next year. So good suggestions and good take.
And there was plenty of good food and everybody seemed to enjoy it. If you chose not to eat, you chose not to eat, but most people seem to be happy. Any other comments about the hot wash? This board was careful to have it in December so that weren't that far out. In the past, sometimes the hot wash has been put off till January.
Yeah.
And
lose your
you
connection.
lose your connection, you forget, I was really upset about whatever it was. And then you have to worry about snow, but we had snow, so, Anybody have any other thoughts, improvements that we could make? Okay, and the hot wash only takes place after the November election. We don't usually we've never had a hot wash after specials or primaries. That doesn't mean you can't comment. That's why the chief's right. Chief's notes.
Bucky had a great slide up on the definition of hot wash, which is in the dictionary.
It's an old military term. It's an after action report. Okay, Jim, you wanted to do something about the contingency planning? For the
Yeah.
possible April special election.
Well, we already talked about the contingency planning as far as the budget goes. Janelle gives a good report on that. I believe the General Assembly goes into session January 14th.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I believe that they will probably take up the redistricting issue pretty quickly.
Since they
Yeah.
called a special session to get the first vote, I imagine they're gonna rush right into it.
And I assume it's gonna pass.
You think?
Um, and I assume if it passes, it will be litigated, most likely. So we won't really know for a while whether it's gonna happen. And here do we have 45-day early voting? Find anything in the code that says that for a referendum, you don't have that?
I think you do.
You do
They
have,
get
you do have that.
all elections.
Unless,
So,
unless a court rules, which happened in Fairfax and other in Richmond. Richmond had 4 special elections in 1 year. They compressed their 45. But they did not in Fairfax. So they had in-person absentee voting, 2 elections going on at the same time.
So I think that not right now, but sometime in January, we need to start talking to our other stakeholders and players, i.e. the school system. I do not believe the school system will decide that there's no school that day. Once we actually have a date.
Of course,
we
it
need
could
to-
already be a teacher workday. You never know.
All our other polling places that are non-schools, they're not going to have any idea. Well, they may have an idea if they pay attention to the news, but also to our facilities people. I think we need to be getting in touch sooner rather than later with these folks saying, look, this is going to happen. The last time that we had any kind of election that school was in session, I've determined to be June 8th of 2021. So it's a problem. The school's in session. So many of the rooms that we normally use, you can't use. So you gotta,
And there's no parking.
and they gotta give us another room. So sometimes it's a classroom because you know it's gonna be a small election. Do that. Getting back to here. I'm not so sure that we want to take room A for 45 days for a referendum where we might be getting 10 voters a day. We had a primary, I don't know, 3-4 years ago,
I think that
Which
was
we-
2021.
we knew was going to be small, and we used room B instead of taking room A. And the room B worked out just fine. But we need to talk to the facilities management people here as to, look, this is going to happen. We don't have any choice in it. So I just wanted to say that I think we need to start looking at these contingencies sometime in January.
We have some calendar and code requirement concerns that I dug into on this. Near as I can tell, the possible election dates would be April 7th, the 14th, or the 21st.
Really?
It has to be a Tuesday.
It has to be a Tuesday. It's got to be 81 days after the order for the special election, and it's got to be 55 days before the next general or primary election.
Right.
And it can't be coincident with a primary election, but it could be coincident with a general. That's not going to be an issue this time. So we're down to just 3 days in April, assuming the General Assembly approves it as soon as possible, which means early voting starts in February for 2 of those dates. The early voting start for the primary is May 1st of 2026. Now, when you, after we have the election, whether the special election is on April 7th, April 14th, or April 21st, after that, there's basically 7 days for us to get our results back to the state. And the state from 7 days on until as soon as possible after that time, they're to certify those results for a statewide election. Which means theoretically, as soon as 7 days after the election, they could be done. 10 days after that is the last date that someone could file for a recount. And the recount is relevant because at the point the recount, that time window expires, then you're free to recycle hardware. The code has two different clauses on this. One,
30-day.
not, it's 10 days after, it's after the recount expires. And that could be extended by court order. You could have more time, but let's just go with what the planned case is. The code talks about this in two places in terms of recycling that equipment. It talks about you have to secure the equipment by locks, if they have locks. But then it also says, oh, but if your machine has USB keys that you're pulling the information out, you have to secure those. So it might be that we don't need to keep our DS300s secure, pristine, not changed, as long as we have a different set of USB keys that we could recycle for those for the next election. And this is important because if the early voting start for the primary is 5/1 of 2026. So down here, the 17 days after the possible election dates would be 4/24, 5/1, or 5/8. Two of those mean that we have to start early in-person voting before we can free up the equipment for that. That's going to be a problem for us. We might have a couple of spare machines we could get going in time for the actual in-person voting and get the rest of the cap and polling place machines done later. That's assuming we didn't use the spare machines next time, which none of us want to do.
I have a report on.
But anyway, so there's a logistical timing thing here. I think we need to examine the code and make sure that just securing our USB keys will be compliant, so that we're not hoist on that petard.
I would offer that while Albemarle has planned and has had the financial resources to have extra machines, and we were very glad of that in November. But not all communities have that luxury. They don't have 3 or 4 machines sitting around waiting to be pulled up for emergency duty. And so I think that before we get too far down the road on planning, or I'm not saying you wait till the last minute by any means. I think we have to be proactive. But hopefully the Department of Elections will give guidance, and hopefully the court, if this goes to court, or the General Assembly, will understand, or we explain to them by somebody, that these are considerations they have to give to all localities if they're going to come up with an April election, which we don't usually have. You can't just run out and you can't rent tabulators, optical scanners. You can rent them, but it's expensive.
Costs an arm and a leg.
It's expensive.
Thank you for doing all that extra stuff I didn't know you were doing. Can
You
you
put it on the agenda. I figured I'd best do some contingency planning.
and can you send all those?
Sure, I'll send that to you.
Great.
Anyone have anything else to say about this possible April?
It sounds like we definitely need to have it on the January agenda.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
This is Doug Earl. Can the public know how much a special election would cost the Albemarle County? Can we know that?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your tax dollars at work. You have the right
Absolutely.
to know.
Correct.
Public needs to know what everything costs because it's your money. Yes, sir. I thank you for asking. For instance, my soapbox, mailed out absentee ballots across the Commonwealth. People get on the permanent absentee ballot. It costs roughly $15 a ballot to mail them out.
Just to mail.
Well, it's not just the postage, it's everything that goes into getting that ballot into the mail and being returned. Or not.
So it doesn't include the cost of processing it. once-
Yeah.
Well, no, the
includes-
processing on our end, that's free. So that's
Well, it's not.
there's no
free.
incremental cost for that.
It's very expensive, and the mailing services. Jonelle has been extremely active in looking at where we're getting charged for things that we're all saying, why are we getting charged for that? So, Doug, Thank you very much. And if you know anybody that's getting an absentee ballot that they're not using routinely, you might want to not get one anymore.
So
Yes, sir.
Amber Baker, so the absentee ballots cost like $15. I just wonder then why were we telling voters that it was $30 in order to try to convince them to get off the list?
I don't know who said 30.
A
I
lot
did
of
not
people
say
said that.
30.
I never heard.
I never heard it. I never heard, if you can tell me the name of somebody that said that,
I'd rather not.
well, I'd like to,
Well,
I'd like to
get
know
the message
who.
out better. 15 is the number.
And 15 is the number that came.
Did anybody
out of
else use it?
registrar's offices.
If there's two people in the household, it costs $30.
Yeah,
Now 30 is what,
I never,
Just region.
that's,
yeah.
yes, ma'am.
does it cost for someone to come in and vote?
Well,
We're not an absentee ballot.
that's,
The
That's
first
Doug's
person is
question.
very expensive. The 1500th person doesn't cost any more.
this is part of the transparency that we need to have of what does it cost to run 45 days of in-person absentee voting? And it's accumulative. It's, it's personnel who work. It's the extra machines that have to be there. It's the tabulators that have to be there. It's the office staff that has to have time blocked out to go help. I mean, it is not inexpensive. And 45 days is a long time. Yes, ma'am.
Speaking, Peyton Walsh, speaking of things being posted for public view, the elections office accounting reports and budgeting, is that information made public on the website once it's generated?
It hasn't ever been generated, so there is no historical answer to provide.
But I can tell you that our current registrar is working really hard to get that information so that it can go up online and be publicly. I mean, she is very
There's an
active.
agenda that's going to be a regular item on each agenda is, what's the report for regular meetings? And it should just be another page on the, how we're spending against the budget.
The sorry.
I don't know how much detail the county budget, if you were to look at county site rather than our site. Budget's on there, but I don't know how
What
much
they allocate to.
how much they,
But
yeah, there's a
election
line-
fits on a page.
line for elections for sure, but whether that's broken down on what they put out on their website, I don't know.
Registrar currently is going through that process and it's very detailed. But as Bucky said, as I have said, in the past, it's never been visible to anybody. Nobody knew. Thus, many of the problems that we've had. Yes, ma'am.
Statewide,
Oh, no.
just
I'm talking about Alabama.
I'm just talking about Albemarle County. I mean, Janelle mentioned in her report that she was developing a line item,
Yep.
budget line item that could either be put in or taken out. I just wonder if at some point in time, not today, but some point in time, we could know what that
Yes, sir.
budget line total.
Yes, sir. That is her goal
For the Albemarle County.
for Albemarle County. She can't tell Fairfax what to do. But yes, the Albemarle County election office budget will be readily available.
I've spent what seems to me to be a lot of time looking at electoral board minutes from around the state, looking for what do other people do? And the answer is no, nobody ever publishes any budget information on any of those that I can see. A lot of them don't bother posting their minutes, so.
Worse than that, a lot of them don't have minutes. They don't have meetings, so they have no minutes. There is one noteworthy electoral board in Virginia that has 4 meetings a year, if they're lucky.
4 to 6 meetings is not uncommon.
It's not uncommon at all. I think it's deplorable, but it's not uncommon.
Okay,
Other items? Anybody from the, I have a couple, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, go ahead,
After-
go ahead, no, go ahead,
Chair.
go ahead, go ahead.
Ladies first.
I'd like to give a report on the DS 300s.
Oh, yes, please.
I have been in both conversation and some emails. I find that the vendor is somewhat more forthcoming if you're talking to them because they don't. I just find that they're maybe more forthcoming. And they are looking at this problem. And I have invited them. They need to come and look at our machines. They need to send their tech people, not their salespeople, but their tech people, to look at our 3. And then we had a 4th machine that had trouble opening up in the morning. I think that was a completely different issue, completely different problem. But, while they're here. So we want some resolution. And now that we've got this looming April, nothing like, as one of my former professors used to say, a dream with a deadline.
It's looming February, because that's when the early voting.
I
starts.
understand. Well, the election is, yes. So we're working on that.
And now we knew they were looking at it before. Have they said anything more about what they're looking at?
I'm trying to get them to get their little flat feet up here to look at our machines. So that,
There's no more specificity about that.
we're bobbing and weaving and calling back and, hi, remember us in Albemarle? So I can't tell you when they will be here, only that I'm trying to arrange.
Sweater.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
Hello.
She'll leave a sweater.
Oh, gosh, just thank
You'll
you. I'm
leave
so
it as soon
sorry.
as you get to the front
So
door.
sorry.
Thank your fellow.
Excuse me, question.
Yes, sir.
This is Rick Garnett. Out of contractual obligations on the part of the vendor to provide
Yes.
service in some sort of timely manner, because I know they've been looking at this for a long time and it doesn't sound like there's any progress that they've really made.
Well, they've been looking at it since election day,
Right.
and we've been talking back and forth. And trying to even
They
get a
managed to
name.
replicate- They did manage to replicate the problem.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's new information.
And there are other places that had, if not the same problem, similar problems, but teasing that information out is somewhat, yes.
I didn't see where they managed to replicate, but that in that email from, I can't remember the fellow's
I
name.
was told that by Tyler.
Yeah, it's not in writing, Jim.
Oh,
It's not in writing.
interesting.
But you keep asking.
They were able to replicate the problem, then
They
it
should
would seem that they now know what the problem is.
One would think,
One would
but
think.
you're dealing with regulated software, so if they have to make any change to anything, there's a whole validation process that it's just tedious and slow.
And why did it happen to us and not everywhere? And why did it not happen to all of our machines? I mean, that's the question. That's the question. Report on the poll pads. We are trying to get the GIS director for the county to coordinate with Knowing. And we're trying to get at the same time the GIS county director who did a GIS site for Albemarle County to work with the office and come and talk to us in the office, and Jonelle, people who work in the office, on getting street files for the office that will facilitate knowing where a voter lives and which precinct, which polling place, et cetera. But also to get it on the poll pads, and for, see the representative from CAP here, we're trying to get them to both, to get the socials on the poll pads for CAP. So we don't have to go through the arduous, but Margaret, for many of you, is 90 even, right? 90-year-old lady who is a dynamo of ability to work. And she went through and looked at all the people who got mailed out absentee ballots and checked to make sure that the last 4 of their socials were on their returned material information envelopes and highlighted it so she could then check it. And she did all of that. There were some 8,000 of them.
And we recheck it.
Yeah, and then the Office of Election rechecked it in the cap. So it was,
So what you're saying in cap is you want to get the last four
On the computer.
socials onto
poll pad.
roll pads, okay.
So we don't have to use the paper because we use the paper pad
It's time
as
consuming.
well as the electronic.
And they do that in other places. They do it with no ink in other places. And they certainly do it with the Demtech. When we use the laptops that we had from Mike Brown. They did it. Okay. Yeah, you have them.
Yes, yes. It has come to the attention of this board that one of our members is experiencing her very last meeting. And so we got you a little something to remember us by. Your own bowl of chocolate.
It's even a special dark talk. I gotta give you a hug. Thank you so much. Oh. Thank you, Jim. You were so kind. Thank you.
And
It's
I'm
inscribed.
not offering the chocolates to anybody. Bucky is a purveyor of good stuff. And he brings all kinds of wonderful things. Oh my gosh. what is this?
and we have something else that we
A
know
much more meaningful present.
meaningful and that you will treasure all your life.
And it's appropriate for opening here.
Now, okay, good. Whoever wrapped this did a great job.
I did.
Good job, Jim.
No, I don't rap well.
Well, this. This looks. I'm sorry to tear this over, but we could be here all night. All right. Oh, it's blank. It's blank. It has no information on it. Good job.
They didn't check the citizen.
Check the citizenship. Oh, no. Oh, wait. This is exactly what it's supposed to be.
Is it an
No citizen is and that means that's it. If it's no, nothing. This is great. Thank you. This is.
Well, we appreciate all your work on the electoral.
SDRs, golly day. Thank you, Jim. Jim and I have been on boards for a long time together, rotating on and off and circling each other, whatever, but I'm in the seat that is dependent on the party of the governor. These two gentlemen are, it doesn't matter who the governor is, they can be here until.
This time around.
Well, yeah.
4 years.
So you will get a new member in January, and I only hope that she has as much to do with this as I did.
Clarabelle and I think we first met. We were a team in the Tom Perriello virtual food recap.
Yes.
2000.
Room A.
Were you on the board then?
No.
Were you on the board then?
No.
So you just as active
We were-
citizens.
We were both on the board at a recount later.
We had like 5 teams on that, and each team had somebody appointed by the Democrats, somebody appointed.
And here we got Tom Perriello racing again.
Here we
So
go. Well, thank you, gentlemen. You are most kind. Gosh.
You.
But I have to say again that Bucky brings bags of chocolates or bags of cookies. And I always say, oh, Bucky, you shouldn't have done that. So thank you very, very much. Wow.
protecting your blood sugar, insulting your pancreas. That's
Thank
it.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. That is supercalifragilistic. Thank you. Okay, I would suggest the two of you determine the time for the next January meeting.
It's hard to do without a third person.
You want to go with your same second Tuesday?
My
Or
thinking is we should just hold off until
you
we
got to have a meeting. You've got to schedule it.
Yes, we have to have a meeting. But it would be, pointless to schedule a meeting without our third person.
So you're gonna do that, and you can, and just so everybody knows, electoral board agendas and the time of the meeting can be done outside of a meeting. So the secretary, the vice chair, whatever, and they will reconfigure who gets to be chair and blah, 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 blah. You can set that time by simply sending an email to the new member.
Any word.
Legally, that's
anytime
fine.
Can call a meeting.
I think as soon as the judge makes the appointment, which may have already happened. I think so, but then we can.
Caucus, figure the time, advertise it,
We don't
notify
have-
people.
We don't have to wait for January 1st.
No, please don't. And it's perfectly legal for them to do that. Okay, we need to go into an executive session. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is Rick Garnett again. I just want to make one comment. I'm so pleased with how the board is working to make everything more transparent. I think it's really, really helpful to everybody. I think to have more transparency and everything that's being done. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else? And I mean, I think I speak for the board on this. We are really pleased with the consistency of people who come to the board meetings, either online or who show up. I mean, you're showing your interest in elections and how they take place. And it's refreshing. And
There was that one guy one time who crashed the Zoom call.
we're trying to forget about that.
I'm glad that was a one and done.
We don't talk about that. Okay.
Do we have much executive sessions?
Not, you want to take a break?
Well, if we
You
don't
want to
have.
take a 5-minute break, Jim?
Well,
It wouldn't be a meeting if you did.
Oh. All right.
And one of these days, Jim is going to stop smoking.
Oh, take a snuff.
A snuff.
Thank you all so much for
Thank
coming.
you. It's been
Everybody who's on the call who's not staying for the closed session, if you
She
could
and I
drop
ran
off,
into
that'd be
each
great.
other outside of the meeting and wow.
Yeah.
That's like it. Oh, especially like.
You guys all have a great Christmas. I'm heading off on Monday to Amsterdam for my grandchildren. Thank you. Thank you. It's been fun.
It's been fun.
See you
It's been real.
sometime later.
I'll be
Happy
here.
Christmas.
Next time I see you, I expect you to be doing fingertip push-ups.
No.
No, probably won't happen.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Talk to you guys later.
Yeah. Anybody else need to?
I'm going to slip out, but I want to get our Karen should drop off, so. There's Karen, there goes AJ. Nope, there's Karen. Karen, are you signing off?
Yes,
Thank you.
because you're finished now, right?
We're just going to executive session and then we'll come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, I'll leave.
Thank you. This for a moment.
The electoral board states vote of the membership that we were in executive session. Only those 3 members of the board and our legal counsel were there. We discussed only those things which we said we were going to do, which were personnel matters and financial matters. And we are now back into open session by statement from the board, all those aye. And now board entertains an adjournment. Motion from somebody.
Adjourn.
Amen. Okay.
Stop this.